which I would argue is probably the hardest part of program evaluation to truly have an understanding of. And to be honest with you, I went through that like lightning fast. There's a lot more in that, but you know, it's the nature of virtual lectures. The next thing to really do is to finally start making your assessment. Right? So the next thing is assessment. And you can see that the system is now getting more and more complicated, right? When I'm making an assessment now, I'm assuming that I've already checked my efficiencies, right? Whether or not particular processes within the system are efficient or deficient. Deficient processes are labeled black. Efficient processes are, you know, they remain white. That way I can code for my processes that are working and my processes that are not working. The processes that are not working are no longer hypothetically failing. It's not just a gut feeling anymore like it was when I began the process in observation. I know they're failing, right? I know that this is failing because I ran a test to test for why. Since I've ran that test, now I can make my assessment. And the question is, well, what is your assessment? Assessments are predictive solutions based on observable deficiencies. The assessment that you're going to be making, right, is a predictive solution, or you can actually call it, to be technical, outcome. So the technical term is outcome. What is the you wouldn't think that the word outcome is technical, but it's a very technical word. But assessments are predictive outcomes or solutions based on observable deficiencies, right? I'm making an assessment of this thing, and in my assessment, I'm going to tell you what the solution is. I think that in the final evaluation, I had a professor that always said that. In the final evaluation, George Kovacs, as a matter of fact, in the final evaluation. But anyway, so in the final evaluation, I might go back, and I probably will go back to the CEO and say, hey, you know what? My assessment is probably going to be the fact that there's a problem with the marketers. Why? Because I know for a fact that the marketers are supposed to do, you know, Y, and I constructed a test to see if they're actually doing Y, and they were failing it, right? You know, less than 1% of the mailers that went out came back. So you might want to hire new marketing staff, or you might want to get them updated with the latest versions of Photoshop or whatever, right? You might want to change the way to design the program, so on and so forth. All of these suggestions, as seemingly innocuous as they might seem, are based on very complex, extremely complex analysis of the program, right? So though the suggestion might seem completely mundane, to arrive at that assessment, to arrive at that solution, is based on observable deficiencies, right? You've observed a deficiency, right? So the classic line is keep it simple, stupid, right? The simplest explanation is usually the best explanation. Occam's razor holds true, I mean, like, by default. Very intricate, exceedingly complicated explanations are usually just there to muck stuff up, M-U-C-K, muck stuff up. And you know, it's a lot of desk kicking, but not a lot of program evaluation and problem solving. So anytime we're talking about assessment, we're always looking at it in terms of observable deficiencies. And the outcomes are going to be based on potential solutions from those observable deficiencies, right? So that's what really your assessment is. You can't really do an assessment until you've actually seen what the process is, seen what the workflow is, understood the structure, the hierarchy of the program that you're evaluating, and taken a deep analysis of the efficiency and deficiencies of the processes within the system. Okay, so that's assessment. All right, the next thing to look at is the outcome, right? The outcome. The outcome is very important because that's where we're trying to go. The outcome is simply known as the solution. What is the solution to the problem? Right? What is the solution to the problem? The outcome is going to, again, be based on the assessment, which is based on the efficiency, which is based on the workflow and the process and so on, right? So that the outcome is going to be the final, really the final analysis that you give to whoever has hired you, right, to do this program evaluation. It might be a very brief document, right? It might be 4, 5, 10 pages long. It might be a very extensive, very thick document. It could be several hundred pages long, depending on how complicated it is, the system that you're analyzing. But the outcome is going to be the solution. As your program evaluator, I recommend, and this is usually how it's worded, as your program evaluator, I recommend that you do X, right? This recommendation for X is based on my analysis of the deficiencies in Y, right? I ran tests and assessed whether or not they were effectively and efficiently doing this particular thing, and they were or they weren't. And that's the solution that I have, right? That's the solution that you have. So an outcome is pretty simple once you get there. The hardest thing is really getting over the hump of efficiency. Efficiency really is the most complicated thing to do in program evaluation, efficiency analysis, because you have to actually go through and measure all of these branches of the process in order to determine whether or not they're being efficient, and if they are, leave them. If they're not, code them, and then test each of those. So that can be the tedious part, but your outcome is the solution, which isn't problematic at all. All right, after the outcome, the next thing is effectiveness. Next thing is effectiveness, and usually what a good program evaluator who isn't a con man or a con woman does is there's always a measure for effectiveness. You can't measure effectiveness of the program evaluation until after the solutions, right? Until after the outcome has been implemented. So I would say, for example, based on my analysis of your system, my suggestion is to train your marketers in new ways of graphic design, and have them entice people with more colors or something like that. Okay, so that's my solution. Seems pretty basic. We recognize how complicated it was to actually get to that solution. Now I need to check whether or not that solution, my solution, not anything having to do with the company, whether my solution was effective. How do I do that? Well, I come back to the company 3 months after I've given them the solution. I've given them the solution. I talk to the CEO. I say, hey, did that solution work? Hey, you know what? Amazing, Bob. I can't believe what a great job you've done. Ever since we implemented your new ideas, our profit margins have gone back up, and we've seen 20% increase in the number of customers that come into the showroom, and of that 20%, 5% are buying more cars. Thanks a lot. Well, great, excellent. Program evaluation has been effective. Hey, Bob, guess what? We did everything that you said, printed out all the ads that you did, followed your letters to the T, nothing changed. Wow, nothing changed? Okay. In anticipating the fact that this is possible, and it happens, it always happens, a good program evaluator will never give only one outcome. You should never give only one outcome. In giving your suggestions for remedies to whatever the problem is, you should always give multiple outcomes, right? My first outcome, the thing I think will be the most effective, is X. But also you should do this, and you should try this, and you should try this and this. Luckily, hopefully what ends up happening is maybe the first one didn't work too well, but the second one caught and that worked. Or the third one caught. But if you only give them one solution, if you write up 40, 50 pages, and all of that is just for one solution, and that solution fails, one, you're going to have a very disgruntled employer. Second of all, you're probably not going to get any referrals. And third of all, you're not really doing good program evaluation, because no good program evaluation ends in an assessment of just one change. This thing is systemic, as we said, and it's dynamic. So there's bound to be multiple errors within the system, and correcting just one or two of the errors will help change the system dynamically. Now, if you're really good, you can identify all the errors. In the best case scenario, you identify all the errors are made, and the system is working optimally, right? It's optimally performing.